Welcome to the Mystery Matt M.O. Allegedly show with Nancy and myself, Sarah. Nancy's actually taking the lead this week.
Nancy's very nervous.
Don't be nervous. You've done the podcast thing. Just pretend you're on the podcast thing.
Yes.
I'm here too.
And Mystery Matt is, of course, here too. He's manning the pictures and editing as we go. So our topic this week is the Black Dahlia.
So I hope I do it justice because I know it's very, very famous. Yeah, so ready?
Yeah.
My pages and pages of research. So we're going to set the scene. It's January 15th, 1947 in Leimert Park neighborhood in LA. A woman is walking with her baby in their morning walk, and she stumbles across what she appeared to be a mannequin. However, it was not. The reason why she thought it was a mannequin was because of the way that it was contorted. It didn't look natural. Turns out it was a body of a young woman who had been clean cut across her waist. Her face was bruised and cut with slashes on each side of her mouth. And she was left naked and abandoned.
Was it like Joker style?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you know? Did you find the pictures of that?
I did see pictures of that.
Did you?
But it was because there's movies done about it. So it was the pictures from the movies, and I didn't think it would be authentic.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So I've
come across that too, right?
Yeah, I didn't do there's a couple movies, but I didn't do any of those.
But yeah, like Joker style, like just straight across or more like up.
It was almost like a grin.
Yeah.
Why so serious?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to. I'm trying to get the picture in my head as you tell the story.
There was no blood on the scene, which showed that she had been unalived elsewhere and abandoned. She was identified as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, a young Hollywood hopeful. The LAPD were actually able to identify her in 56 minutes by using a sound photo, which is like a primitive fax machine.
That's pretty quick.
Actually,
For
that's
fingerprints.
impressive.
That's pretty
That
quick.
yeah.
Because they can't even do that now half the time. Not in that short a time.
Well,
Like,
she
that's impressive.
was in their records because she was arrested for underage drinking,
Oh.
so she was already in the system. So I think that was
Oh yeah, if they did it by fingerprints for sure.
she was and she had been questioned about something.
The unsub made a mistake. He left her hands attached.
Stupid him.
Take them off. Sorry.
So the press nicknamed her the Black Dahlia due to her black outfits. There was also a movie called The Blue Dahlia, but apparently this nickname had been with her since she was younger.
The Blue Dahlia, was that like the softcore porn that you'd see on City TV late at night in the 90s?
I don't know. This was like 1940s movie.
Remember the blue TV movies or something? They used to call them Blue City TV Blue.
Oh, they were on like after 11 o'clock?
Yeah, like
because
Saturdays.
all of us were to be in bed
Yeah.
by like 10:30.
Yeah.
Yep. Uh-huh. No.
All you ever saw were boobs, anyways, and the odd butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Anyways, not that I even know.
This case is still unsolved, which blows my mind. That some 70 some odd years later, it's still not solved. But it was 1947, so you can't expect miracles. So who was Elizabeth Short? She was born July 29th, 1924, which makes her a Cancer Leo cusp.
Do you want one of the things now?
Yes, please.
What one?
That really nice headshot.
You have to give him a
What
number.
is it?
The one
don't
without
know.
the hat? Number 5.
Yeah. She was born in Hyde Park, Boston. She grew up with her parents and 4 sisters, but I could only find names for 2 of her sisters, which was quite odd. Her parents' names were Cleo and Phoebe Short, and the 2 sisters that I could find were Virginia and Muriel. I really love this case because there was so many like old names, like Muriel, Elizabeth,
Virginia.
like you don't see like
Cleo?
you don't see like these
Mr.
names.
Cleo?
There's one later on, a Detective Muriel. Like, it was really neat. When Elizabeth was 6 years old, her father lost the family savings due to the 1929 stock market crash, and he disappeared. His car was found near the Charleston Bridge, and he was believed to be deceased by suicide. Apparently, this was a very common thing then.
Yeah, I could
During
understand
stock
that.
market crash?
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Very
you're-
common.
Yeah, very common. Where
Yeah.
they just kind of up and left. and like either started somewhere else or
Off.
yeah.
Yeah.
At 16, Short went for surgery because of a respiratory condition. Her doctor suggested after that she spend winters in a warmer place, as Boston winters can be very, very brutal. So she started spending time in Florida with some family friends. And eventually she dropped out of school and spent most of her time there. 1942, Short's mother receives an apology letter from her husband, Cleo, who apparently was deceased for 4 decades.
That don't make sense. 4 decades.
Well, that's what it says, 4 decades, and I'm like, some of the math doesn't math.
The math isn't mathing at all, because if
No.
the stock market crashed in 29
And 42.
so
So it would have been...
like 13 years.
Yeah, so...
So
I
that's
don't
like
know.
a decade and 2 years.
decade and a
Decade
bit.
3 years, yeah.
Decade and a bit.
So that wasn't mathing.
No, and I put that in there because I'm like, math doesn't math in this story. I even was like going back and like checking, because when she was like arrested for underage drinking, it's like she was like 19 years old.
Yeah, because it's 21 in the States.
But then I'm like, yeah, 21 in the States. So apparently he had started a new life in North Carolina, and then when Short turned 18, she moved out and joined her dad. That, however, was very short-lived. And she left in early 43. In 1943, she relocated to Santa Barbara, where she was arrested there for underage drinking of 19 and sent home to her mother. That just tells you what era it was, because I was never arrested for underage drinking.
No.
But I don't think we would ever be sent home to our mothers. Like, this literally was in the police report. Sent home to her mother.
Wow, how times have changed.
Yes. Short ended up going back to Florida for a bit to visit her family, and then made her way back to LA to pursue her acting career. That is the theory. Unfortunately, 6 months later, she would be, I can say the M word.
Yeah.
She would be murdered. So what happened in the time leading up to Elizabeth Short's murder? Short's last 6 months, very mysterious, and not a lot of it makes sense. It's a lot of speculation, accounts. You know, she might have someone,
third-person account.
Someone that looked like her was there. So it was kind of really hard to place it. But she lived in multiple places, had various different jobs. It was said that she dabbled in prostitution or had a madame. She was all over the dating scene, with different dates, receiving gifts and being spoiled. That's the word I'm looking for. She struggled financially, however, somehow always made rent and had money for her necessities.
That would probably be the prostitution. She probably was like Jack the Ripper's victims, where they only prostituted themselves when they needed money to have, like, to grab a bed for the night kind of thing. Yeah. So maybe she was a part-time prostitute.
So Officer Vince Carter stated that in part of their investigation I read, Short's life in Hollywood followed a pattern. She would be broke, then all of a sudden would have money. Her roommates, bartenders, and hotel clerks, all of them said she was very secretive. She never told anybody where she was going, who she was meeting. She was never one to confide in anybody, which makes it all so much more mysterious.
Yeah.
December of 1946, Short left LA for San Diego. She told her roommates she was scared, but didn't say why, and immediately moved out. Upon arriving in San Diego, she met a young woman named Dorothy French and ended up staying with her family. During her time there, she confessed to Dorothy that she was hiding from an ex-boyfriend, but then didn't get into details. And one day, 2 men and 1 woman show up looking for her. And Dorothy goes to find her, and Short is like panicking, freaking out, says, I'm not here, I'm not here, I'm not here. So eventually they get the 3 of them to leave, and then Short relocates after and just like takes off again.
I just have this picture in my head of like how Adam and I used to deal when we would be home alone. If somebody came to the door, he used to yell, "Bill collector!" We used to dive face first behind the couch to hide in case people looked in the windows.
We used to hide, yeah, do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you'd go, "Bill collector!" It's just our code word for dive down, hide from the windows.
My mom had one friend that would just show up unannounced.
Also, my parents, too.
It might have been the same friend.
Harvey and Bernice?
No.
Okay.
So she would show up unannounced, and like it would be in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so
80s
all
and
the
90s,
cars would be home, and we would be hiding behind the island while the person like walked from door to door. Yeah.
And they're the type that would go like this through the windows.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, calling at the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
All the memories.
Yes. So, January 8th, 1947, Short departed with a traveling salesman that she had started to see. What I've noticed through this is she just tends to date men to get the things she wants.
That is prostitution.
He dropped her off at the Biltmore Hotel, and she told him she was meeting her sister, which was a lie. Allegedly meeting her sister. Allegedly. A lot of this, all of it is like allegedly. An account. The staff recounted seeing her making multiple phone calls in the lobby, growing more and more frantic and panicking. January 14th, 1947, hours before she was found deceased, Officer Merle McBride had possibly been the last to see her alive. This was another thing. Oh, a woman that looked like her was at this bar. But this is the interesting part. So this officer was at the bar, and Short approached her very frantic and upset, and saying that someone was trying to kill her. The two of them went back into the bar, as Short had left her purse inside the bar. And then once they got in, McBride said they became separated. And then she noticed later on that Short was leaving with two men and a woman, but no longer looked panic. Mm-hmm. So she approached her and was like, "You good?" And she was like, yeah, I'm good. I got my purse. I'm all good. And that was the last person to see her.
Right. Allegedly.
Oh, you said the thing.
We've been saying it a lot.
Mm-hmm. So the investigation. The LAPD dove into her mysterious life. As you just heard, not a lot of it makes much sense. She was never one to stay anywhere. She was very secretive, so it was very difficult, as a lot of the information was sporadic and very vague.
Show picture one.
Oh, picture one. The press did play a big role in this case.
Sarah's wearing it.
They played a huge role in this case in making it more difficult. Duck! People are coming! Duck!
Bill collectors!
Dive! Oh.
If I sit up straight, all I get is boobs. This has gone downhill. Okay, I'm sorry.
We're trying.
I'm going home.
You live here.
So, the investigation was filled with questions about men she'd lived with, known, and how she lived her life. There was hundreds of suspects, several even falsely confessing. And this I don't understand. Why would you falsely confess to murdering somebody?
People do it all the time. I don't understand it. I think it's to get attention. But to me, it's the wrong attention.
Right? Like, you want to go to jail?
If you look back at the freaking West Memphis 3 case, Jesse and Miss Kelly falsely confessed. And look where that got them. Right? They weren't so lucky. They weren't discovered. Are you still looking at half my face?
You gotta give me one. I'm Batman.
Happy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now I'll take it off your face.
When you look at the West Memphis 3 case, Jesse and Miss Kelly falsely confessed, mostly just to get out of there, thinking he was going to get out of there, and it backfired. But then you look at a case like Jean-Benet Ramsey, where there was multiple confessions and obviously no convictions because there was no substantiated evidence that connected it. So it's like, you're taking a big chance. Either you're going to get off from false confessing, or it's going to backfire massively and you're going to end up in a prison.
Isn't it a crime to, like,
I mean, no.
Because you figure, well, it should be.
If you were to take the stand in your own defense and lie on the stand and corroborate your confession,
that would be
perjury. So then that would be a crime.
But, like, not calling the police and being like, hey, I'm the one that killed Elizabeth Short, come arrest me.
I mean, they can arrest you, I guess, if there's other things that maybe is out, like, on warrant. Like, if you have a warrant out for your arrest for something else. yeah, they can arrest you. But I think falsely confessing, they might stick you with a misdemeanor, like a obstruction charge. That might be it, which usually just gets tossed out.
But yeah, like this.
I think it depends on the jurisdiction and the state or the province, depending where you are, right?
Yeah.
So, because the laws vary state to state, as well as I think they even do so province to province. The Canadian justice system is a lot different, and because we don't do a lot of cases here, because the information is all sketchy and not as plentiful. It's
also too close to home.
And it is too close to home, right?
We don't want to know.
We're going to be doing a Canadian case up next. But, does it differ state to state? So, like, one state might have the death penalty, another state does not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's different laws in different states. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. This case, by the way, is still being investigated, like I said earlier. The LAPD held an investigation from 1947 to 1950. Over those years, they examined several clues, evidence, and the false accusations. Or the false confessions, sorry. The media played a huge part in almost providing the false confessions. They were all over this like white on rice. I can't say that?
I don't think so.
Is that a bad thing to say?
Matthew says no.
Sorry.
She didn't know.
You can edit.
No.
So what do I do now?
Just keep going.
All right, I'll keep going.
I'll save you a bit here. So the media thing happens all the time. If the police give way too much information out to the media, and whether it's like a media release and the media just runs with it, they might be giving up evidence that could be considered like a guilt thing. Like, so if you came in to confess and you said something that nobody knows about the killer, then you'll be guilty, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of the times police will keep things out of the media reports and press releases and stuff, so that way they have guilt knowledge when they do have a confession. That's how you can differentiate between false confessions and real confessions, is you hold stuff back. But if the police back then weren't holding anything back and they were giving everything out, even though they might say to the media, this is off the record, the media don't give a shit if it's off the record. They're going to run with it anyways.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times that's probably what happens.
Okay.
Off the record, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. So-and-so reporting from blah, 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 and this is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, and not much happened in 1947. There was, not much was happening, so.
The radio reports and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the war was over by then, so yeah, there's not much to report.
So I have a question for you, actually. So in 1949, a grand jury gathered to discuss the inability of the LAPD homicide unit to solve this case. That I thought was interesting. Because it was taking so long, because they started in 47, and so this is 2 years later.
2 years isn't that long, really.
And I was like, in all of the cases that I've sat in with you, I've never heard that.
No, because I don't know, maybe it's a practice they did back then, but grand juries are usually convened to see if they can get an indictment on a suspect or a potential person of interest. Like, say Matt committed a crime, but there was not a lot of evidence, but there was some circumstantial evidence, so you would take it to a grand jury, which is a private hearing. And you don't ask questions, like there's no cross-examination. It's the prosecution presents the case with witnesses to jury members, and everything is secret. And then they choose whether or not you can indict them. But you don't have to follow through with that indictment.
Okay.
So this is weird, because like I've never heard of this either. The grand jury basically being convened to see whether or not there was appropriate amount of police work done.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that. I'd never heard any of that. No. The investigation continued. In front of the grand jury, I can't speak today. Detective Harry Hansen, assigned to the case, stated he believed her murderer to be a medical man due to the way that she was murdered.
Oh, you mean dissected?
Yes, the clean cut, and then on the face. Was
there blood on the cuts on her face?
Yes.
So they were done probably ante-mortem, like during death or just before death.
Yeah, but there was no blood found anywhere.
If the dismemberment was taking place, you wouldn't find blood because the heart would have already stopped pumping. But this could have been during death or just right before. If there was a lot of blood.
That's a lot of work to do. Like, that's a lot of hate.
It's not easy to dismember a body, but they also were only lazy. They only cut her in half. They didn't, like, completely dismember her bit by bit.
Well, no, she was just cut in half, and then she was, like, just dumped. And that's the part that I think is very sad.
Yeah, especially since now she's still not getting justice, and she will never will.
Yeah.
Because everybody would be dead by now.
Yes. The trials brought many investigative interviews with friends, family, and suspects. However, there was no leads on the case. So was anyone charged? To this day, no. There's been no official charges laid. However, there were several suspects. So one suspect was Norman Chandler. Chandler.
Bing.
Bing.
Do I have a picture of him?
I do not know.
Okay.
Apparently, he allegedly impregnated her while she was working for a call girl, working as a call girl. Sorry, for Hollywood Madame Brenda Allen. But nothing ever went anywhere on that. Because she was allegedly. The next was George Knowlton. He died in 1962 in a car accident, so there's not much known about him. His daughter Janice claimed she witnessed her father murdering Short.
That's a big accusation.
So, yes. So she claims that she watched, and they asked, well, why are you coming forward? Because it was later. It was after he had passed. And she's like, oh, well, I had a baby, and I had a postpartum hysteria.
Yeah, that was a thing. That's because they didn't use the word depression back then, right?
So they still looked into it, but nothing came up because there was no proof. Even with her hysteria, that was mentioned in it. It's like, even though she was hysterical, we still looked into it.
Just because you have postpartum depression doesn't mean that you're not. It doesn't mean you're full of shit, right?
It just means you got extra feelings.
You have extra feelings more.
That are not very nice.
It doesn't mean that your imagination's running wild with you.
Right.
It's not a rear window situation. What?
Just it made me so angry, that whole thing. I couldn't even write it in my notes.
Postpartum hysteria?
The postpartum hysteria.
Oh my god, she had postpartum hysteria.
Like, give the woman a lobotomy and let's move on. Like, that's pretty much what it was.
Send her to the clink.
Yep.
Put her in Waverly Hills in case she's got the tuberculosis.
Goodness. The next was Jack Anderson Wilson and his AKA Arnold Smith.
Do we have a picture of him?
No.
We do not know.
I will yell number.
Yeah, we do
3?
have a picture of one suspect though.
I'll yell number 3. I'll go like that one.
Okay.
You can put up the picture.
He was a petty criminal and an alcoholic. And he was so not much was known of him either. Like, none of this really made much sense. But the reason why he was a suspect was because of his choices, in which Short was allegedly involved in some of the
Goings on at the time?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Yes.
You have to repeat what I said because I'm too far from that.
The goings on of the time. The next one was Patrick S. O'Reilly. He was an orthopedic surgeon in LA. In 2023, it was found that O'Reilly had lied about his name and place of birth.
Do we have this one?
No.
His name was actually Patrick Trier from Kansas. He was not from LA. And due to his constant lying about things and making up information, that totally discredited him with the authorities. So our main suspect...
Hang on a minute. But you said he was an orthopedic surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
He would totally have the skills and sophistication to pull off a dismemberment.
But wait, there's more.
Okay. Number 3.
The final, and this is the main suspect. His name was Dr. George Hodel, or Hodel.
Nice mustache.
Hodel.
Hodel. He
know.
was a gynecologist in LA.
I don't know many gynecologists who are skilled in dismemberment.
But wait, there's more.
Okay.
He was known for throwing lavish parties in Hollywood with all the Hollywood hotties. He was rumored to be dating Short at the time of her murder. He was arrested and accused of assaulting his teenage daughter, which then caused them... Oh, he was acquitted of that, but then they thought of him for Short's murder. During the time of the LAPD investigation, they actually wired his home. And the following things were heard. Many concerning statements of how he spoke about people. He basically confessed to the murder of his former secretary, Ruth Spalding, which had been said that it was an OD. His suspicious comments about Short's murder, and these are quotes: "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. Killed her. Maybe I did kill my secretary."
Interesting, because he's saying these in the privacy of his own home or office, not knowing that he's being wired. That is, and we know that just because if he killed his secretary allegedly and killed Short, obviously the modes of death are different, the cause of death is different, but that's the modus operandi, hence MO allegedly. The modus operandi, or the way you do it, right, is the method of operation and method of killing changes. That's the only thing that changes. It can change because you're still trying to find what works for you as a killer. So
right, but
that doesn't mean that he didn't do it.
No, but if you just wanted to off your secretary, would be, OD, not a big deal.
Took a few.
There was no passion.
Yeah.
Right? Like mutilating somebody's face.
No, that's a psychopathic tendency, a sexual sadist, because he's getting off on the torture.
But it's also like I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
So Hodel and funny enough, he was able to relocate to the Philippines, and he lived there until he died in 1999. Hodel was later suspected by his son Steve. So Steve was a former LAPD police officer and also private investigator, and he found a photo which appeared to be his dad and Elizabeth Short. That photo started his investigation. His investigative findings, this is what he found while he was going through his dad's possessions. So he had found 5 witnesses claimed that Hodel was Short's boyfriend. He had former training as a surgeon at the UFC, University of California.
Okay, I thought you were talking about Ultimate Fighting Championship.
No. Steve actually had it compared his dad's handwriting to a letter that was sent apparently by, this part didn't make much sense, but he found a letter that was sent to the Examiner regarding her murder, and had his dad's handwriting and that compared, and there were very eerie similarities. He also found receipts for bags of cement that matched that were purchased days before Short's murder, that were the same brand they found by her body. But when they talk about it, they don't talk about the bag of cement that was. So there's a lot of things that don't, like the math doesn't math.
Oh no, this is mathing.
In 2018, he uncovered a 70-year-old letter from a former police informant written that Short was killed by a man named initials GH. So the LAPD looked into Steve's findings. However, they did not go any further. So Steve, his son, believes that his father was friends with many police officers, many Hollywood highs, and that's why he was never investigated and able to just piddle off to the Philippines.
Oh, kind of like the Ellen Greenberg case, where Sam Goldberg is kind of connected to the Shapiro, who was the AG.
Yeah. Some officials believed that Steve cracked the case, which makes it makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. So far.
LA Deputy District Attorney Steve Kay told People magazine, quote, "I told Steve if his father was still alive, I would have filed murder charges against him. His evidence was very persuasive." Detective Hansen of the LAPD searched for Elizabeth Short's killer for 23 years until he retired. And he stated upon his retirement, quote, "My only regret is that I have never solved the murder of Elizabeth Short." And he retired in 1968. So what? There's not a lot.
No, but it is definitely it gives you a lot to think about in terms of what you like in terms of the suspects, and I think there's the two really good ones there. But I'm leaning definitely towards, like you said, wait, there's more. George Hodel, or Hodel, or whatever his name is. It'd be interesting to know if any evidence was preserved from that, and whether or not they could go back and test, like, her dress, her clothing, maybe the wounds on her neck or face. I mean, obviously not that, but I mean, like, they would have, if they had scraped anything out of her nails and stuff, to see if they could get DNA. Because if they can solve the Jack the Ripper frickin' case,
right?
They should be able to find something, and there's got to be DNA on there, because they didn't have DNA back then. So leaving skin cells, or accidentally cutting your hand, or jerking off, whatever. We're almost there.
Okay, I'm gonna put up some of the pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I think happened, with little proof, there wasn't much for me to go on, but I really do think Hodel stands out. He was trained. So he was a trained surgeon. He was apparently her boyfriend. She had stated twice that she was afraid that someone was going to kill her, and that she was hiding from her boyfriend. The way that she was dismembered and the way her face looked showed me that, and my thought was, like, did she know about the secretary and wanted to leave him, or he wasn't very kind to her and she wanted to throw him under the bus, and he went, well, that's not going to happen, I'm too powerful, let me just take you out.
It would be motive. Yeah. Or because she was in a domestic situation and trying to leave that situation by hiding from him. That when you leave a domestic situation or interrelationship violence situation, that is actually one of the most dangerous times. So maybe that was it, and his rage shows that in the way he disfigured her face and dismembered her body.
It's like he's taking away her beauty, is the way I looked at
exactly.
the face.
He's depersonalizing it. There's no
if
care
I can't
given.
have you, nobody can.
Exactly. I'm not preserving your beauty anymore.
Yeah.
She
was very beautiful.
This is what you deemed important to yourself, because you take the time to make sure you look good. So I'm going to take that away from you.
Because what was number 6?
Number 6 was the police scene.
Okay, so the police scene was that. So they're looking at the police scene now.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's...
I'm not keeping that one up for very long, so...
No, that's fine.
If they need to pause, they need to pause, but that's about it. We'll go back to the pretty lady.
Pretty lady.
There's the funeral on the one side.
This case made me really sad. I didn't really know a lot about it when I first started.
But you've been wanting to do this one for a while.
I have, but I didn't know anything. So I'm thinking the Black Dahlia is like this like wicked female serial killer that never got caught.
You're thinking Evelyn Dick here in Hamilton.
So
Whose house is actually just down the street from ours.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, then maybe that's where I need to start looking.
Maybe.
Next is female serial killers, because like
there's not many.
There's not many because we don't get caught.
Do we want murder board up yet?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this made me really sad, because it with her dad leaving when she was so young, when you look at like the psychology behind it, and the pattern is like the daddy issue pattern. And it's looking for somebody looking to find her way, trying to find a spot, did not make the best choices though. But then again...
That's a common pattern amongst people who have been abandoned by their fathers,
yes.
including men.
Yes. Absolutely.
We talked about that in Edmund Kemper in the Nature versus Nurture podcast that we did. Not having that stability or that male role model can really affect the children. And as they grow up, whether you're a son or daughter, it affects you greatly. Yeah, if it's something that you never knew you had, it might not affect you as much. Like, if you just grew up with a single mom...
But it's the abandonment part.
You might not, like... Yeah.
That she was looking to fill that, but it was also... At that time, it was very hard for women to strike out and, like, be famous. And they had to use their bodies, and they had to do things. Because, I mean, there's been many documentaries that I've seen come across, or a couple, I think I read, was it Rose McGowan's book? Called Brave. And it talked about her, her story, her Hollywood story. But that's now all coming out.
Yeah.
Where people weren't treated, they were asked to do sexual favors for advancement.
Well, that's what pushed that Me Too movement, right?
Yeah. But then thinking back to this time, that would be all women would really have. Because they didn't have much.
Unless for some reason you were strong enough out there to say, no, I'm going to do this on my own, and it might take you longer.
Yeah.
You're not on the casting couch, so to speak.
Yeah.
As often, or at all.
So, I know she wasn't innocent in all of it, but at the same time, you don't deserve that.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't deserve that.
Doesn't matter if you're...
No.
If you're a good person who tries to do everything right, or if you're just a good person who's, making bad decisions in your life, but police do pay more attention to the good girls, so good girls, and less attention to the bad girls.
Yeah, because it's, they made those choices and they did that.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah, it's still not okay. You don't...
No, you should be treating every victim, whether the sex, race, religion, economic status, should be all treated the same. They should all get the common courtesy of having their murders or the violence against them.
Their story told.
And they should have them investigated fairly.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether or not, I guess they have no idea whether she was inappropriately assaulted or not. I guess they wouldn't have looked for that back then. They didn't really have that. And also they didn't really care.
They didn't believe in it.
They didn't care.
No, that was a woman's place.
Yeah.
Which makes me even angrier.
Yeah, but you know what? We've changed things.
We have. I'm glad we are where we are.
Yeah. Actually, the Golden State Killer case is actually one of the ones that changed that, where people reporting the R word, SAs, or inappropriately assaulted cases.
You know, 3.
Shut up, Matthew. Because there is actually differentiations between SA and R. So, just saying. There is actually a difference. Touching my butt can be just considered an SA if it was unwanted.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Inappropriate comments.
Yeah. Yeah,
yep.
Exactly. So there's a difference between the R word and SA. But we'll just say inappropriately assaulted, covering both. Yeah, because that was when a lot of the movement happened against that stuff and it became more taken more seriously back in the 70s during the Golden State Killer. Well, he was the East Area's rapist. I have to say it because that's what his name was, the ear. But yeah, that was kind of what triggered the movement, and women starting to band together to fight against that kind of stuff. So yeah, a crime happens, but sometimes some good can come from it. In this case, nothing. Crickets. It is sad. It is sad because she was so young. I didn't realize she was only 22. But yeah, somebody who probably had the world at her feet. Yeah, she would be making shitty choices to get your feet on the ground. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Doesn't make you a bad person. You just have to do what you have to do to survive. I'm sure we've all done stuff to survive that we're not proud of. But it doesn't mean that was her end future. Her goal was to be a looser, maybe sex worker or whatever, escort, whatever. Was probably not her goal.
Probably not, no.
No, I don't think it's anybody's goal. I think it's something you just get stuck in.
Yeah. Yeah, can't see it being a career choice.
No.
So,
yeah.
That's about all I have.
You have any comments, Matthew?
Nope.
Comments, concerns, questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Queries, qualms, and quivers?
No.
What?
Tell the people when you're on next.
All right, so in 2 weeks, which we're recording as soon as we post this one, we will be on in 2 weeks on, I think it's March 8th. My dates are all screwy. I actually have to fix our schedule, by the way. But our dates are screwy. So next episode we are covering Clifford Olson Jr., the Beast of British Columbia. So until the next one, we'll be wearing the same clothes, so don't worry.
Allegedly we're recording after this.
Yes, allegedly we're wearing the same clothes, dude. Just
we should switch clothes just to make it messy.
Can you imagine? Here's my underpants. All
I
right.
meant shirts.
Oh.
Who's gonna tell if we switched underwear?
I might not even be wearing pants right now.
Oh.
Okay, on that note, I think it's time to say adios, amigos, and peace out, bitches.
Bye.